Hello everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to this training. This video is majorly a summary of the training we just had about disaster management. This video today is the summary of the day 1 of the facilitation, where we talked about disaster risk reduction. So I want you to be attentive as much as possible because the video is comprehensive and is well explanatory. What is disaster risk reduction? Disaster risk reduction is the process of reducing the impacts of disasters on people, property, and the environment. This involves a range of activities aimed at preventing, mitigating, and preparing for disasters. The main thing about disaster risk reduction is preventing, mitigating, and preparing for disasters. And so the goal of the disaster risk reduction is to minimize the loss of life and destruction that comes with disasters, both natural and human-induced disasters. So that leads us to the types of disasters. There are two major types of disasters depending on what causes it. Some disasters are caused by natural occurrences such as geographic activities and also climate change. These ones are categorized to be natural disasters. The other type of disaster results from technological failures and accidents, which are of course influenced by man. These ones are categorized under the man-made disasters. So let me talk briefly about the natural disasters. Natural disasters result from climate change and geographic activities. Climate change has resulted in global warming over the years, and that has led to extreme temperatures. This results in disasters such as hurricanes, such as floods and droughts. These are natural disasters. And for geographic activities, this involves earthquakes and floods, majorly volcanic eruptions. These are under natural disasters. Natural disasters are always very, very destructive, and the cost of rehabilitation and recovery after it has happened is usually very high. For example, the earthquake that occurred in Haiti in 2010 was very catastrophic, and it's regarded to be the deadliest earthquake in history, killing over 200,000 people. So you can understand how destructive disasters can be. So now let's talk about man-made disasters. Man-made disasters occur due to technological failures and accidents. For example, this includes industrial accidents such as oil spills and chemical leaks, nuclear accidents such as Chernobyl or Fukushima. They have long-lasting effects on both the people's health and also on the environment. It takes a very long time, thousands of years, for the effect of some of these nuclear accidents to clear off from a particular environment. Another man-made disaster that occurs is usually from conflicts. Conflicts between individuals, groups, communities, nations results in wars. We all know what happens when there is a war. Killings everywhere, even some civilians are trapped in the crossfire. Many people are displaced from their homes. There's massive displacement, destruction of infrastructures and facilities. This can result even in disease outbreak, because when they camp everybody inside one place, diseases can spread very rapidly, can lead to hunger, there is there is suffering to mankind. These are examples of man-made disasters. Now, let's talk about the strategies of disaster risk reduction. The most effective strategy for disaster risk reduction is the preparedness. Preparation is very, very, very important when we are talking about risk reduction. Now, preparedness involves developing plans and procedures that can be implemented before, during, and after a disaster. Okay, so preparedness involves developing plans and procedures that can be implemented before, during, and after a disaster. This includes training of first responders. First responders are they include medical practitioners. You know, the first people that you meet when it's time for an emergency. This also includes firefighters. We have the first aid, paramedics, and all that. So these people need to be trained on how to attend to different kinds of emergencies, because when there's a disaster, there are different things that will happen. People will be victims of different things. Some will have fractures, you know, some they'll be unconscious, some you understand what I'm saying. Some is even going to be psychological. So these people need to be trained on how to handle various kinds of emergencies. Another way of preparing for disaster is to stockpile foods, water supplies, and medical equipment, and other things that will be needed in case of an emergency response. For example, objects such as torchlights, you know, to see what is happening. Some people are trapped in caves, in holes, in buildings, under debris. There is need to have a torchlight and extra batteries, because at that point it will be difficult to start looking for batteries when something happens. So these are very important things. As little as they are very important to be included in the emergency kit. Now, the next strategy after preparedness is what is called the early warning systems. These are designed to detect potential disasters before they occur, so that appropriate action can be taken to mitigate their effects. When we know that something wants to happen, we can take adequate measures on what to do to reduce the impacts, even if we cannot prevent it. This is what the early warning system is all about. So, for example, an early warning system for floods could involve monitoring river levels and issuing alerts when water levels rise above a certain threshold. When water levels rise above. So when you see that, oh, the water level has risen above this particular level, let everybody in the neighborhood be alerted that there is a possibility of flood. So the next line of action will be taken. Maybe it's evacuation to a safe place, you know, and things like that. And also, an early warning system for earthquakes could involve installing sensors that detect seismic activities. Seismic activities are vibrations and tremors that, you know, the hearts will go through before an earthquake can happen. In fact, it can happen like a week, 2 weeks, few days before the actual earthquake now finally happens. So these detectors can pick up these tremors, can pick up this, you know, activities that is going on in the heart, and an alarm can be sent to the individuals and communities involved. So these early warning systems for earthquakes trigger alarms when significant tremors are detected. Another early warning system that can be used is infrastructure. This involves building with reinforced concrete or steel frames. in areas that are prone to earthquakes, and even building with reinforced concrete and steel frames should be constructed in areas that are prone to earthquakes. These reinforced buildings should be able to withstand strong tremors without collapsing. So when it is known that a particular area is susceptible to earthquake, the buildings that will be constructed in those areas are reinforced, extra strength to withstand whatever tremor is going on, at least to a great extent. And even for areas with floods, there is a way they raise the foundation. There are drainages that will be constructed to prevent the flood from occurring or affecting the buildings in that area. Now, the next strategy is community involvement. Community involvement. In community involvement, every member should be educated and encouraged to participate in emergency response. Everybody should know what to do when there is an emergency. Everybody should know the exact step to take when a particular disaster happens. Now, every member should be encouraged, to partake of the emergency response by volunteering their time to be of help to people that need, to the people that are affected, and then donation of food, water, clothing, things that will be needed to, be of support to the individuals that are affected by the disaster. And lastly, the international cooperation. International cooperation is very, very important for a successful disaster risk reduction, because there is a limit to what a particular community can do by itself. Because when a disaster actually happens, it is usually so overwhelming that the community will not be able to handle it on their own. So they need external help. So when international organizations such as United Nations are involved, they play a critical role in coordinating disaster response efforts and providing help to affected communities. I hope we are following me. Now let's talk about the response strategies. Response strategies are recovery efforts that are essential part of any response for disaster risk reduction. This involves rebuilding infrastructure that has been damaged by a disaster, as well as providing support for affected individuals and communities. When a disaster happens, the facilities in the community are destroyed, houses are destroyed, a lot of infrastructures are destroyed. After this disaster has happened, there is a need for rehabilitation. After response, there's a need for rehabilitation so that these communities and individuals can recover. In fact, it involves psychological support for affected individuals, apart from the rebuilding of infrastructures and facilities. So this strategy is also very important when it comes to disaster risk reduction. To wrap it up, let's talk about the call to action for what is the role of the individuals, communities, and governments in disaster risk reduction. Because disasters can strike at any moment, so these things should be prioritized. For individuals, every individual should create their own emergency kits. Individuals should have a plan in place for evacuation in case of a disaster. And every individual should stay informed about potential risks in their area. They should listen to local news, know the updates, what is going on in my community. As you listen to international news, also know what is going on around. Communities investing in infrastructure that can withstand natural disasters is very, very important on the community level. And also, we should try as much as possible to maintain peace and harmony. Communities should try as much as possible to maintain peace and harmony. When there is no war, the man-made disaster that comes with war is prevented. And so we should maintain peace and harmony with our neighboring communities and nations. And also, communities should establish communication systems that allow for quick dissemination of information during emergencies. Communication is very, very important when there is a disaster, both before, for everyone to be informed, during and even after. Let everybody know what to do. Lastly, for governments, government should allocate resources towards disaster preparedness and response efforts. For example, funding research on natural disasters, providing training programs for emergency responders, and investing in early warning systems. Also, bills and laws can be passed to prevent people from building in high-risk areas, because there are some high-risk areas that should be avoided. People should not build anything there. This is what is called the land use planning. So these checks should be put in place, and everyone should be obedient, because a disaster does not have to involve the whole community before we can even say it's a disaster. The death of one person alone is a disaster for that particular family that is involved. So let every life matter. Let every life matter. Prevent all of these hazards that could be prevented as much as possible. Let us follow laws, let us obey rules and regulations, and we will eat the good of the land. So in conclusion, we can create a safer world for ourselves and future generations by working together towards this common goal. Thank you everyone for watching. I believe you have learned a lot from this video. If you have not subscribed, please click on the subscribe button. If you have learned anything at all from this video, please click on the subscribe button. Thank you and God bless.